after hearing this kind of story, it's a bit difficult to be academic, but I try to be academic. As a concept, disability, especially in the UK, but also in Canada and the US, disability is largely nowadays understood as a form of social oppression. So it's an equivalent term with racism and sexism. And when I say this, if you say this to pretty much anyone, when I tell this first to my students, they don't get it. It's like they don't understand why on earth. I mean, disability has got nothing to do with oppression. We take good care of these people. But if these kind of stories were heard more often, if they were more in public, then it would be easier to understand that. From Finnish perspective, if I try to, when listening to Wendy and Sam, the crucial, one of the biggest issues, or the ethically more troublesome issue, is that of directness, of to what extent doctors should try to avoid being directed. Because in medical ethics, one of the basic principles is respecting parental autonomy. So any sorts of forcing or directing parents to do some sort of reproductive choices is unethical. And what Wendy said about his doctor making an appointment for abortion without consulting her is not only immoral, it sounds to me pretty criminal. And I'd never heard anything like that before happening, actually. It's shocking. But, so the problem is, what kind of information should be given and how it should be given? Because there's no going back. I mean, even though like prenatal diagnostics and prenatal diagnostics and selective abortion, we all know that it's a very difficult ethical issue. But then again, parental autonomy is that kind of a principle that there's no going back. So even though selective abortion, I think, is ethically very problematic practice, but we can't make it illegal. So the problem is how to carry out these. If some people choose to terminate pregnancy on the basis of disability, and there are people who want to do that. So, but what should we do that we don't direct people to do it? Because at the moment we are doing that. There are studies, like in Finland, about 80 or 90, the percentage is somewhere between 80 and 90. So almost 90% of women who find out, who are being told that they carry a child who has Down syndrome, almost 90% of them terminate the pregnancy. And if that's the percentage, then something is terribly wrong. Then we can tell that it's direct. And one of the problems is that that the information given is purely medical. Doctors think and they concentrate on delivering just purely medical facts. So and then they, for instance, and then if it's about Down syndrome, then they tell that, well, Down syndrome is this kind of condition that there may be intellectual disability, there may be heart problems, there may be problem whatever. And if you just give a list of all sorts of problems that can happen, then the picture is pretty grim. And if you give this kind of information to parents who really don't know, who have never met people with Down syndrome, who really don't know what it's like to live with that condition, or what it's to have that kind of child, that is very directed. It's just if they don't get any socially significant information that helps them to understand what it would be like to live with that kind of child in that particular condition. But then again, so the problem usually is, in the case of prenatal diagnostics, that it's the information given is directed. It's too directed. But then again, there are cases, perhaps, that where doctors should be directed. I talked today to a pediatrician who said that he saw a problem with premature babies. Because nowadays doctors can even say babies being born on 22nd week or 23rd week of pregnancy, which in most cases means that if everything is being done, they create a life which is very short and filled with suffering. And if doctors in that case just ask parents, well, this is the case, we can do this and this, it's up to you, make up your choice. Most parents, of course, say, well, do everything in your power, what you can do. But then in this kind of cases, you should ask, well, is there really a point? Should doctors actually direct in these cases? And should, and at least in Finland, I haven't, nowadays, everything we do, doctors tend to do everything in their power to save all lives. At least that's the principle. But if we can do something, maybe it doesn't always imply that we should do it. But drawing a line when life is just misery and it's not worth living, it's of course very hard to draw. But maybe sometimes we should do it and need to.